Okay, so welcome to week 5, everybody. I'm really sorry that we couldn't meet on Sunday. I was unavailable during our normal time, and so we are meeting right now. I thought for a second I might actually be able to do the normal time. So I'm gonna try to move because I got like God rays coming behind me. I thought I was gonna be able to come in during the normal time for a second, and then I was like, no, I don't think that's gonna work. So, but yeah, so this week we just kept on, working our way through different material. There was no assignments to do for reading in the Klingon dictionary, but we will be going through some Klingon dictionary stuff today. So I hope you all have dictionary handy. But let's go over some of the homework stuff. First off, there's that worksheet. Did any of y'all have any questions about some of the grammar? Anything that was tripping you up? Yotar, I think you're talking, but if you are, I can't hear you.
Okay, I got you. Sorry. Number 11, Bong Chopummo. I translate as "you accidentally caused me to accuse." That doesn't sound right.
That is a way to understand it. What would pummoch would more likely be, so pum has two meanings, right? There's pum is to fall down or to fall, and pum to accuse. So pummoch, it's more likely to be, I knock you down, is basically what it is, right? There's a Klingon proverb, if something's in your way, then knock it down, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be careful for those words that sound that are homonyms but have very different meanings. Yeah, for sure. Any other questions about that? Krebo. And then
I actually have a few questions, but it's even connected to the last worksheet because I was kicked out. I couldn't ever ask those questions last time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's I didn't. Oh, for those of you who didn't know, it's just that I was charging my phone while I was using Zoom, and my phone locked me out of the app, and then it was completely impossible to re-enter for some reason. So yeah. From last week, Mutlej Kejwi. What is Kejwi? It's like grouchy maker. I just don't understand the translation of that.
Where is this? Which one is this?
It's the last week's worksheet.
Okay. And what is it again?
Kejwi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's someone or something that is grumpy. Like a grumpy person's with me. Would be mutlej tejwit. Klej is to be with or to accompany, right? Because there's no word for with in Klingon. So often things that you would say with for in English are going to be, you're going to use klej as to accompany that. So mutlej tejwit is I'm with a grumpy person or thing. Or more literally, a grumpy person or thing accompanies me.
Okay, because I was thinking that kejwi is somebody who makes other people grouchy, but okay.
No, that would be a kejmoch.
The verb kej is to be grouchy, so kejwit is one who will be grouchy.
All right.
A grouch.
All right. And yitamka, I'm quiet again, just like that.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Jitamka.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm quiet, or I'm quiet again.
Okay.
Or I resume being quiet.
Oh, okay. And then there was this question about sentences about warriors being red or yellow. What was that about?
Right. So
Yeah.
old joke.
I threw that in as a little joke. There are 3 canonical Klingon jokes, all terrible, and the shortest and simplest one is "Dok-a shuwit pu," and the answer, that means our warriors red, and the answer, the punchline, is "Robet shud." No, they're green, and that's the joke. And we've been telling each other this joke for like 30 years.
Yeah, Germans have humor like that.
So that's what the shood is all about. I thought it was being very hilarious.
It was. I laughed.
And you're making so that you don't see me.
No, you are so cho. So the object is me.
Yeah, you me.
Subject is you, right? L'air is the verb, so see. Bat, not moch. You're making me not see. You're blinding me.
You're blinding me.
Or you're making it so that I can't see. Maybe you're sitting in front of me. We were in a muchpat in an auditorium or a theater.
Oh.
And you sit in front of me and you're a really big person. Choler bet moch. Making me not see.
Okay, I thought that the show was also about seeing. Like you see, you're making so that you don't see me. I thought that the show.
Oh, no. Yeah, remember. It's just. I mean, sometimes it can be the indirect object, but most of the time, the verbal prefix, when we're not talking about the prefix trick, right? It's going to be subject object, right? So in that moch. Is going to make it so that the object is it's going to make it so verbs that are normally transitive become intransitive, right?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So cho verb moch means you cause me to do something.
To do that, right? Exactly, right. So cho ler moch, you make me see. Cho tlong moch, you make me barter. Cho, I don't know. Trying to think of what else. Choket moch, you make me run, right? Yeah. Chodok moch, you make me red. Choshud moch, you make me green. Cool. Did anybody have any other questions about last week's worksheet? Did everybody have fun doing Klingon math?
Not so much. It's a pain having to write it. Can't Klingons just use the numbers like we do? They have numerals, right?
I really like Klingon math. I just put in, like easy ones. We're not in math. We're not.
It's too repetitive having to keep writing bulk and chen.
Yeah, but that's the way they do it. Cool. All right. So, and then let's see, what was the other homework we did? We talked a little bit about the Pakyav section 3, which is titled Nobkang, the offer, but more literally translated. Chiago, what does Nobkang mean, more literally translated?
Willing to give.
Yeah, willing to give. It can mean he, she, or it, or they is willing to give, right? So in this context, it's probably talking about the emissary, right, who was sent by Molor, who was willing to give Shakshub to Murat, the cousin of Kalish. Cool. How about, I wanted us to do an exercise where we just say, this section out loud, where we speak the words. So we'll start with Reitle. If you can start off and go until Juchlij Nov, that would be great.
Try and find Juchlij. Oh, that.
Yeah, it's just the end of that first sentence.
Kak engam dak ratach molar do it markag poklod et hop 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 juchlej nov.
Match. Your ngai is it's like you're kind of saying the N and the G separated. So try to kak ngemdak rachtach.
Kak engdak
Ngam.
ngam
Ngam.
ngam dak rachtach
Match. Molor dui.
molor do it
Dui. Just say dui.
do it
No, there's no dui. It's dui, right? Dui.
do it
Dui. Dui. Ah.
do it markag
Try that one again.
markag poklod et.
What I'm hearing with that one is markach, but it's markag, right? It's voiced.
Markag
Markag.
kag.
Kag.
Oh, I always love that letter. Markag.
You get in there. It still sounds a bit like a chai. So at night, if you after you've brushed your teeth, try gargling water, and that's the place where the r should be coming from.
Yep.
Match.
I am still kind of confused about how pronouns sometimes act like they're verbs. Rachtach is not something that I would have thought was a legitimate construction.
Yeah. You can say rachlach, right? He, she, it, they can. I guess you could say rachchoch. There's nothing barring you from saying that. Yeah. You could add all sorts of verbal suffixes onto.
Rachtach, I translated it as he is being.
Yeah. Can anybody tell me what's going on? Why is there a tach on the pronoun?
Because he is continuously in the woods.
Right. So this is something that Klingon does where if something is at a place, we didn't really exactly know what the rule was until very recently, but we sort of knew that if an object was at a place, it sometimes in texts had a tach on it. And there was thinking that that this is just always the case in Klingon. But what it turns out to be is Maltz has told us that it tends to be when something is in a place and it's somewhat mobile. So, for example, to say that Georgia at. So Georgia is in the United States. I didn't put a tach on there because it's not really mobile. It's not really going anywhere
permanently.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
New York is in the United States and would not get the tach because it stays right where it is. I wondered because when they say, where are you?
Yeah.
They use the tach. And to me, that's not where are you? It's where are you being? Where are you remaining?
They don't use the tach. Like, nukdak right? Whereas the bathroom, there's no tach on that, right? And that's another example where you don't add the tach. Yeah.
I also interpreted it as a because tach doesn't have an ending, you're continuously there.
Yeah.
As opposed to li, which is you're there purposely, like with an ending, I believe.
Yeah.
And so
I suppose you could add.
I felt like that was a subtlety in the Klingon. At least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. I would say it's just more like banality more than like subtle. I think to use lit would be like something very like sort of poetic, like he's there for a specific purpose, you know, which would be accurate to say.
Poetic.
I'm sorry?
It is poetic. It's the bak.
Yes. No, but I'm trying to say I think tach isn't in this instance isn't particularly poetic.
Mhm.
But lit, if they had used lit, that would feel to me more poetic, is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. Cool. And then as Right Lit was pointing out at the beginning, before we started recording, there is a lack of of punctuation. So you kind of have to just know what the text said. You kind of have to tell from context that it's Chop Juchlij Nov instead of Chop Juchlij Nov, and the difference is the first one would be your foreign home is far versus your home is far, stranger, right? Cool. Khebo, can you get from Bijashde until Danech'a?
Yeah, sure I can, but I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Why do we have molor dui and then again, like, I don't understand the grammar of this at all. Like, about molor dui.
It's definitely particular. I would not call this normal grammar. Some people might say, "Oh, it's a paklat, so it's canon." I think normally you should probably just stick with putting the at the end of the noun phrase. But for whatever reason, there's an at on both
I
name
assumed
and the family name.
I assumed they were emphasizing that the son of Markog was Molor, the envoy. I'm not sure why, but that was my assumption. Because the et draws focus on those two things.
Yeah. I can't give you a distinct answer. I think it's just one of those things. There are a couple of weird things in the Pakbash. Like, for example, there's remember in that first text in the beginning, in the first section, there's a line. Trying to see where it is. There's one that does not, and it's with et again, and it doesn't follow the normal grammar. There it is. Kalis says to his brother in the second part, tuch, shame. He says to his brother, "Ludnitwit bechuch tatbet, popwij och nach." So normally, right, we would say popwij och nach et, but there's an et missing for whatever reason.
Should I read?
Yeah, Yoruch, go for it.
Okay. Bijak beval ham shakshubngangpu devwit charge shochmo tour ip vet dapab danech a.
Match. Yotar, you want to take it away from Machvad until Lech Betlu?
Machvad lodge mitme keposhmoch shochvad tuklij vinoblach batcher chordukle ketch da chupbor vikel jichvad juchach danobtur iu lerbetlu.
Match. Oop. Thiago. Yoruch.
Judge di Carol I Vuk. Niteb bi Vuknish. Ned Kuvan.
Match. When you said your W's, they kind of sounded like V's instead.
Yeah.
You said, I heard Yavuk instead of Yavuk.
Yuvuk. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Match. And then the other thing I'm gonna say is listening to your eyes. I heard kind of like long eyes, long eyes, and so I heard like Yiwuk. It's Yewuk. Bewuknish, not bewuknish, right? Bewuknish.
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 Mad.
Thank
Cool.
you. Thank you.
Right. Great job. Cool. And then let me zoom out of that. Any more questions about that? New. Cool. The other part of the homework was to watch Mayonnaise is Not an Instrument from SpongeBob, dubbed over by yours truly. Every single voice in there, that is me. Including the crowd at the beginning. I just recorded over a couple of different times. And all they're saying is dop, 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 and chot, 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 which are both ways of saying nonsense. But like they're the actual words for nonsense. And dop is nonsense, and chot is like balderdash. But chot also means like porridge or stew, or it's not stew. It's like a thick soup.
I had a few spots where I couldn't make out what was being said, and I forgot there were subtitles, so I didn't go back and find out what they were.
Yeah. Here, let me turn on the Klingon subtitles real quick, because there are some Klingon subtitles. Oh, let's see. There we go. Turn on the Klingon subtitles. Okay. Oops, sorry. There we go. Which parts were confusing you?
The third sentence sounded to me like Jermech John Dakhel. So all I could get out of there was John for musical instrument.
You're talking about.
So after he asks if anybody plays a musical instrument, the one guy responds, and I couldn't make out most of that line.
Joitmech John Dakhel. You're talking about Plankton's line?
Yeah, well, I don't know who Plankton is, but
the little guy with the triangle.
Okay.
So
what were the words there?
So the words are Joitmech. So John.
Okay. John, I got.
Yeah. Da. Kel.
Oh, small Q.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, do you mean, so kel is like to keep in mind, right? Or to consider. And so joit means to torture. Mech is the verb equivalent of vad, right? It means for the purpose of, right?
Okay, so he's asking if by musical instrument he means a torture device.
Right, exactly. So Joitmech John is a torture device, exactly. Yeah. Which is I can't remember what the original English is, but it's something similar. And I thought I would play off the fact that John, Kok John is just a device in general in Klingon.
Right.
But yeah, cool.
I have actually been reading through KGT, and I just read on music, so I knew that John was a musical instrument.
Yeah, mad.
And I didn't know what Ukshu was. Yeah. I had forgotten the title is mayonnaise, a musical instrument. And mayonnaise ain't in my dictionary.
No, it's not. I got a lot of. I was like, well, I can either just Klingon
some kind of a sauce.
Transcribe the word mayonnaise, because obviously Klingons don't have mayonnaise. They have like their own things. So I had the option of either like transcribing it, or I could just like replace it with a Klingon thing. So I decided to replace it. So ushu is not mayonnaise, but it's a type of Klingon sauce. So it's like a condiment. Yeah.
Okay. And the other one was when he says, no, mayonnaise is not a musical instrument. There's a word in there that sounded like Tashvik. I was wondering if it could be Tachvish.
That's his name. Yeah, that's a name.
Oh, okay.
Although Pashrik is also actually just a word in Klingon. Pashrik is it's like fabric. but a thick fabric that you would use, specifically a thick kind of fabric that you would use for like sails or like the lining of a couch or curtains.
I tried typing that into bokwit and didn't come up with anything. How do you spell that?
P-A Pi At Shai Rai It.
Ah, Rai. I had Vi. Okay. Okay. Other than that, I think my translations are okay.
Much. Did anybody else have any questions about that? Lots Sheng Boraj A. Robert. Much. Okay. Today we are going to go over. Let me just go ahead and share my screen with y'all. There we go. Alrighty, so today let us talk about questions. So questions are an important part of any language, and no less for Klingon. You guys probably already know all the question words, but let's just go over them anyway. So you already know one, right? So nuk och ponglij at, right, is one of the phrases that we've gone over. And so the nuk in that is what, right? And for nuk, it's, for a lot of these, it's going to, these question words are going to just basically take the place of the information that they're replacing. So nuk is a noun, right? More specifically, it kind of acts like a pronoun sometimes too. We're going to get into exactly what I mean by that, but for the moment, just it's a noun. Iv means krebo. What does it mean?
It means I don't really know questions. If it's who? No.
No, you got Iv.
Okay.
Iv, who? Yeah, Iv. Jeshobet, Iv. Nuvek. Right? So nuk, Iv. And then, so those are the ones that are they're going to kind of act like nouns or pronouns. So what I mean exactly by that, let's talk about what I mean by that before we move on to the other question. So you can obviously treat it just as a regular noun. So nuk och ponglij at, right? This is an instance where it's just coming in the place of the information that it's supposed to be replacing, right? So I replace it with deshdu och ponglij at, right? Nuk och ponglij at.
Isn't
deshdu och ponglij at. Sorry?
Isn't goot the wrong suffix for axe handles?
It actually is not. They're considered because, for example, we have, this is kind of getting off topic, but
Yes, sorry.
we do have we have this thing, nevnar, right? Or nevdar, excuse me. Nevdar is a type of pot with these very tall handles. And the word for handle the word for like a handle on these pots is deshtiv, which means elbow, right? But because it looks like two elbows sticking out, they're called deshtiv. And there's evidence to support the notion that you call these things deshtivdu. Even though they're not actual body parts, they still resemble body parts. And because they resemble body parts, you use the boot. Another example of this is like
so a word for body part.
Like this could be literal jaws, or this could be like mechanical jaws, but you still use that.
a word for body parts keeps that suffix even when it's used for an object?
It depends. It depends. Yeah, it really depends. Like we also have this word neb, which means which is like it means a beak, but it can also mean a warhead. And when it means a warhead, you can say nebme or jorneb. So jornebme, sorry, that's a warhead, and a neb is just a beak. But let's say that you're talking about like it can also mean like the spout of something, I suppose. So neb, so nebdu would still apply there, but jornebme is a may. So it depends. Is the word far enough removed from the original comparison to a body part to get its no longer have that doot suffix? Yeah, it'll depend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as I said, nuk och punglich at, right? It's acting as a noun. You can also say nuk och Deutschwarm at, right? What is this thing? What's that? What's this? Right? But equally valid, you can say Deutschwarm nuk, right? So here, the nuk is kind of acting like a pronoun and taking on the to be part of the phrase, right? So this thing, what is it? What it is, right? And iv can kind of act in a similar way. Shoch iv, who are you? Shoch iv, right? I think another example of where this can, so you know, another way that you could say what is your name is Ponglich Nuk. Right? Most people won't say it that way, but that's it's valid. So yeah.
So is that kind of like saying you are who rather than who are you, since the word order is essentially reversed? You're who again?
Well, shochiv, right? So since you're talking about it being reversed, it's exactly what the way it is in English, right? So who are you, right? And some people will say if shoch. I don't think that really makes. I think that more sounds like, for me, that sounds more like you are who, but you know, it's the same thing. And if you were to ask it, it's totally comprehensible. I think it's just a question of people's idiolects, whether they say shoch iv or iv shoch. But I believe in either Power Klingon or Klingon. What's the first one?
Conversational Klingon.
Thank you. I think it's in one of those where there's this dialogue and a Klingon says shoch iv, which is this form. So yeah, there you go. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay. And then conceivably, because they act as pronouns, you could conceivably put verb suffixes. We were talking about this at the last Kep-A, and I was kind of thinking like, what are what are the instances where you could do that? And it's one of those things. I think like just because you can do it doesn't mean you always should. Okay, so there's those, and then one verb suffix that we have not discussed, because we really didn't get too much into the verb suffixes, but we will more today, is a. And a, like esne in Latin or est-ce que in French, these are verbal question marks, essentially. So when you add an a onto a question, it automatically becomes a yes-no question. So, judok a. Look, judok. I'm a little red. I'm a little doke. right? This is kind of a dope sort of tint, right? Dope up, Deutschfarm, Geja, dope, right? And then, the answers are either going to be Geja or Robet or Chak, maybe, perhaps, mayhaps. Yeah. One thing that I'm going to say about because it's pretty straightforward. It's just a verbal question mark marking a yes/no question. One thing I'm going to say though is that a lot of people, when they're starting out, they will ask something like "Nuk och a ponglig," which is not grammatical. The reason it's not grammatical is that you have already asked the question in the form of nuk. When you have these non-polar question words, the WH words, right? Who, what, when, where, why, how many, how much, you don't need the a, because the a is indicating that it's a yes/no question word, right? There's only two ideal answers, right? Or three if you include Chak, right? Whereas Nuk is more open-ended, right? So you're conflating two different ways of asking the question together. So that's why that's not grammatical. Okay, then the other question words. Or, Nukdak, Hot. I will not include R for the moment. Okay, so Thiago, what is chai?
How?
Yeah, how? In what way? I'm not gonna write that, but yeah, how? Khebo, roer.
Let's say how many?
Roer.
I don't know.
Roer. Ah, Japash. I'm late. When? Roer. Right? Like you're looking at the watch. Yotar. Nukdak.
Where?
Yeah, where? Nukdak. Right? And this is actually made up of, you might be able to see, of what place. Right? What place? Or at where, depending on, whether or not it's the suffix or the noun. And rightly, kak.
Why?
Yeah, what? Kak. And the way that these get used is they tend to go at the beginning of a phrase. So
Is there a way to ask why not?
I would just tend to say, why do you not do that, right? Hot Majach judge, right? Hot Majach judge. Come on, let's go. And then just say Kach Majach bet, right? Why would we not go? Right?
Okay.
Things like that, yeah, are going to end up being like multiple word statements in Klingon. No, there's no way to say like kash bat, right? Although that could be a really fun joke word, I think, but there's no straightforward way of saying that. So yeah, that's another example of where kash goes at the beginning, right? Kash dash judge renep.
Okay, I am going to go incommunicado while I relocate for my lunch break.
Why do you lie on Monday, right? Why do you lie on purpose? Why do you lie in the church, right? Or when do we meet, right? So these are all things where they're going to go at the beginning of the sentence. And finally, we have ar, which khebo, do you know what ar means?
How many?
Yeah, how much, how many?
Did I miss that we're supposed to go through those questions? Because the questions is something that I didn't go through at Duolingo or anything. That's why I'm like, did I miss that I was supposed to?
Nope. Nope.
Or were we just supposed to know them?
No, we're learning them right now. We're learning.
I know. Just
not large. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no. There's no problem. If you don't know these, then there's absolutely no problem. That's why we're here. Yeah. So R is going to act much as a stative verb does, right? So it's going to come after the thing that we're asking about. So there's this classic question in, I think it's conversational Klingon, Nin ar wiraj. So fuel, the question is how much fuel do we have? So fuel is nin, and ar is how much, and then we is the correct prefix, right? It's we to it, or him, her, it, them, raj, have. So how much fuel do we have? This is an instance where the R is coming after nin. We're asking how much fuel, right? Kach ar daraj. How many houses do you have? What? One. Yeah. Typically, this is going to be this is not going to have a plural suffix. So bik, buj, ar, daraj. How many? Actually, can it have a may? I don't think it does typically have a may, but I could definitely go check. Typically not, I don't think. But let me just pull up my phone. We actually recently just got info on this from the last Kepchom, and when that happens, I always tend to confuse myself over what exactly has changed.
It never follows a verb with a plural suffix.
Okay, it never does? Cool, thank you. Yeah, and that was something that was confirmed at the last Kepchom. So never put a bik buj me. How many boats do you have, right? It's bik buj ar daraj. How many boat do you have, right? So there you go. And those are the question words.
So do I understand correctly that you never put may or do when you're asking the other question?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Verengan ar daler. How many Ferengis do you see? Vulkangan ar darom. How many Vulcans have you met? Or how many Vulcans have you? Yeah, dakich. Cool. I'm going to put a lot of these in this week's worksheet. So that'll be a good opportunity to use these. Mostly the question word that you're going to use, the question word you're going to use the most is a. So that's the best. That's if you're afraid you're not going to remember all of them, that's okay. Treat it kind of like the prefixes, like you're going to learn the ones that you use the most. You probably R, I think I use, in any language, I use this one like the least. Yeah. So bik buj ar daraj, cha bik buj me beraj. But bik buj daraj khja beraj bej. Oh, wow. So on and so forth. Okay. Cool. I'm really sorry to y'all in Europe. We'll try not to be too long tonight. Let's go and take a look at the verbal suffixes that we did not go over So we kind of covered type 1, right? So doing right? Doing something to oneself or to each other. We went over type 5, right? Or type 4, moch, right? We went over type 3 as well, right? Ka and choch, right? The change suffixes. Moch, type 4, which is making something do another thing. Lach, and we didn't go over loop, but we will today. As confusing as loop can be. And then we kind of went over some of the rovers, right? Chiago, what are some rovers that you can remember?
Bet.
Bet, yep. Which means...
Ko. No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Yeah. No.
Not. So negation.
Yep. What was the other one you said?
Ko.
Oh, yeah, which means?
Don't.
Yeah, it's negation in a different way. It's like it's like refusal.
Imperative.
Yeah, and it's also, yeah, you're right, and it's also always required for the imperative. Yijach ko, don't go. You can't say yijach bet. Okay, what's another one you can remember?
Ha.
Ha, yep. Means
do it wrongly.
Yeah,
or
undo, right. And it's something that you just remember, we just need to feel out. Do you mean I miswent, I went wrongly, or do you mean I came back, or I unwent, right? It's probably going to be that first one, right? Okay. And then what was another one you remember? Yeah.
Interrogate.
I'm sorry? Yep. Yeruch. What does it mean?
Interrogation. So yes, no question.
Yeah. And there you go.
I believe that's a
type 8. That's type 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not really a rover.
Sorry.
Cool.
But you know, ko and ha are really not rovers either, but they get thrown into that category. What was the one that you said? Rightlet? Cool. Yeah. Cool. Which means that's a true rover. Like bet, it's also a true rover. It can move around. So it means really or emphatic. I really went. Okay, let's talk about type 2 verb suffixes. Mojak me. Okay, we got this little dude, Nish, Kong, Oop, Bech. The fun. And I think that's all we got. We also got Verb. Rightlit, can you walk us through the first two?
Nish is need to or necessity.
Yeah, need. Yeah.
Kang is ready or willing to.
Yeah, willingness.
Not ready, willing.
Yeah,
Specifically willingness.
Ready's another one, but yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so an example word. What's a word that y'all learned during the last during Klingon the Easy-ish Way lesson 6? What's a vocab word from that?
I don't know which ones specifically were from there.
Or just one that y'all have gotten thus far.
Jijach Kang.
Yeah, Jijach Kang. Which Krebo would mean?
It means I'm willing to talk.
Yeah, I'm willing to talk.
Speak. I'm willing to speak.
Yeah. It's the same. It's kind of the same word in Klingon. So it's I'm willing to speak. I'm willing to talk. Yeah. But then Jijachnish would mean I need to speak. I'm required to speak. and that could also be like an internal requirement, right? It can either be have to or need to. Right? Jijach nicht, right? I need to speak. Jijach nicht, I need to go. Jijach kang, I'm willing to go. Sha osh kang, I am willing to represent you. Osh means to represent, right? I'm willing to represent y'all, right? Sha osh nicht, I need to represent y'all. Right? Okay. And then Chebo, can you take us through Roop and Bech and tell us how they're different?
Well, they mean more or less the same, but the Roop is referring to creatures capable of language, and Bech is about more things. So ready, ready to do something, ready to verb about people, and Bech is ready to do something when it's about things.
Yeah. Bech is more about like devices.
They're set up to do something.
Yeah, and Roop can actually also cover like, it's not necessarily just creatures capable of speech. It could also be like, Chiv Roop vir ro'a, right? The lion is ready to attack, right? Chiv Roop vir ro'a. Lion is ready to attack. And vir ro'a is like it's not an official translation of the word lion, but it tends to get used that way. Means the major cat, right? The major cat-like creature. Yeah, and then can you give me an example sentence with Bech?
Oh my God, peng. Wait. Peng Bach. No. Peng. Wait. Bach. Oh my God, I cannot think right now. What is it that's making the firing of the torpedo? Well, the torpedo is ready. Bach. Peng. Is it correct? Like the torpedo is ready to fire? Probably.
Yeah, you could maybe say that's like the ship, right? The ship is ready to fire the torpedo.
All right.
Peng bach bech guj, right? Of all the verb suffixes, and this is including nesh, which is the deference suffix, bech is the one that I use the absolute least. I hardly ever think about bech. But it can be useful, right? Kin labech detwit widge. My computer, detwit, computer, widge, my computer. Lab is to send off, right? Send away, so to send off, or you can kind of use it for upload. Bech, ready, message. My computer is ready to send off the message. So it can be used for like computer programs as well. And then Tiago, can you tell me what VIP is all about?
It's afraid to.
Yeah, afraid to. Afraid. So, little note about VIP. There is a cultural taboo on using the first person with VIP. So, V'chiv VIP is very, would perhaps make you a persona non grata if you were to say it, because Klingons don't VIP anything, right? You could say, Dachiv VIP, a little insulting to say that. To say that somebody's VIP to do something is a little insulting, but you could say that. But to say Yechiv or to say Jujach VIP, I'm afraid to go, is very self-deprecating, which is frowned upon by Klingons and by extension, people who speak Klingon. You will be forgiven because we understand that everybody is actually Klingon, but even so, we tend to avoid saying je or ve or whatever first person prefixes that are not coming to mind right now with the vip. So.
Okay. I have a quick question about that one, and I probably could look this up in the dictionary, but does the taboo also exist if you're saying you're not afraid?
No, that would be okay to say je suis vip bet. I'm not afraid to fight. That's okay because you're kind of making it the opposite of vip, right? You're confirming that you are not afraid to fight. Yeah, that's okay to use vip on a first person with this first person prefix because again, you're not saying that you're saying you're bold, basically. Yeah. Cool. And then let's talk about the other type 5. We talked about lach, which means can. Right. And that's pretty simple, right? Je jat lach, je ket lach, je lach. I can talk, I can run, I can fight, right? So that's pretty straightforward. But then we have this other type 5 suffix, which for whatever reason, these two suffixes are lumped together. They have nothing to do with each other, but there you are. And this is said to be Klingon's passive. However, that's not exactly accurate. Although it's convenient to say that, it's not entirely 100% accurate. It is indefinite. There's an indefinite subject specifically. So to say Deutschram lerlu, right? So Deutsch is thing, vam is this, ler is to see, and lerlu would mean an indefinite subject sees this thing, or a more fluid translation would be this thing is seen. I think you can say by an indefinite subject.
Or also visible.
I'm sorry.
Visible.
Yeah. You could say you could translate that as this is visible. Yeah. Although again, while that's more fluid, that's not actually what's being said. So that's the easy. And then you also have this phrase, which is this word, which is so important when you're speaking Klingon because it is everywhere. Chiago, do you know what tutlut means?
There are.
Yeah, there is, are. So wedge, epelnach, tutlut. There are 3 apples. Buj tutlut. There's a ship. Veng tutlut. There's a city. So on and so forth. You can just X tutlut. That's fine. There's also lututlu, which you could put onto a plural version of that, but it's not required, and tutlu by itself is fine. We're going to get into why there's a lu there, because lu is usually a prefix that means third person plural does something to third person singular, right? So Romulushan luler Klingon pu. So the Klingons see the Romulan or a Romulan. Right? But something weird is happening when we say wedge jar pu tutlu. What's happening here is lu is sort of being transformed in function by lu. And there's a whole set of these that change. And what'll happen is they, so we have the word ve, or we have the prefix ve, da, we, bo, lu. And these are all used typically, right? Ve means subject is me, object is you. Da is subject is you, object is, or sorry, ve is I, it. Da is you, it. We is we, it. Bo is y'all, it. And lu is them, it. What happens with lu is it sort of changes what's going on. Ve then is talking about is making the first person singular about the object rather than the subject. Some people like to use the word reverse when they're talking about lu, how lu treats these prefixes. They say it reverses their roles. I have heard people argue against using that nomenclature, so I'm not going to do it. But if you ever hear people talking about it, that's what we're talking about. So ve ler lu, right? What would ve ler lu be?
It would mean I'm seen.
I am seen, right? Exactly. So normally ve ler is I see it, or I see them, or I see him or her. But when you add that lu, I becomes the object. So I am seen by lu, indefinite subject. Right? Daler lu, you are seen. Right? Wiler lu, we are seen. Right? Again, we becomes the object rather than the subject. Boler lu, y'all are seen. And luler lu, they are seen. Right? So lu is typically the subject of the lu of the verb, right? They is usually the subject of the verb when lu is being used, but not when lu comes into it. They become the object, which is why you can say wedge epil nachme lu tutlu, wedge epil nachme lu lechlu, wedge epil nachme lu jetlu, wedge epil nachme lu nichlu, right? 3 apples are stolen. Does anybody have any questions about that? I'm sure. No?
But you usually omit the lu, right? Anyway, like in spoken Klingon.
Yeah, that lu in those examples that I was giving, typically, not if you're speaking with me, I usually leave the lu in, but most people will leave off the lu, especially when they're using tutlu. It's kind of like a fossilized word. Yeah, tut in and of itself means
to discover.
Yeah, to find or discover. So literally, what you're saying when you say tutlu is it is found, it is discovered, it is noticed by an indefinite subject. That's what you're literally saying. So there you go. Any other questions about that? Robert? Okay. Robert. Maj. Cool. Let's talk about type 6. Right, Lit, can you tell us what type 6 verb suffixes are all about?
All right, without looking.
Without looking, yeah.
I was about to. Is that where tach is? Is that the?
No, that's type 7.
I forgot off the top of my head. As soon as I see one, then I'll probably know the rest of them.
They have a corresponding batch in the noun suffixes. that do basically the same thing.
Oh, it's yes, it's the like lao.
Yep.
It's one of them.
So they're called.
I don't know what the grammatical term for them is.
Yeah, they're called the qualifying suffixes because
Qualifiers.
they qualify the information that you're talking about, the degree to which you know what you were saying is true. So we have a couple of these. We have shoot, we have bed, we have lao, and we have a fourth one, which is the addendum. We know what that one is?
Ah.
Ba. Okay. Khebo, can you tell me what chu means?
It means like completely, very well.
Yeah, perfectly, right?
Perfectly.
Yeah, perfectly is the typical translation. Can you tell me what bedge is?
Was a question to me, sorry?
I'm sorry? Sorry, I think my internet is bad. Can you say what you said again?
No, I mean, I didn't hear if the question was to everybody or to me.
Oh, to you.
Okay, badge. Wait, badge. Wasn't it like seemingly?
Nope, another one.
No, I don't remember.
It's definitely.
Oh.
For sure, right? Tiago, what is lao?
So lao is. That was lao. The.
But Tiago.
Without looking, I'm not sure.
It means seemingly.
Seemingly.
And then can you tell me, if you can, what ba means?
Deshdu is frozen, but
Oh, I am? Oh no, I keep on freezing. I'm really sorry. The internet is really bad here. Yeah, Thiago, if you could tell me what ba means.
No, I cannot say. Sorry.
Okay. Right, Lit, do you want to take it?
obvious. It's obvious to the.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's obvious to the speaker or to the listener. I forgot. But it's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it could depend, but typically it's going to be from the speaker's perspective. But, you know, like bed, it just means definitely, right? Bej, he's definitely going. And the speaker, am sure of it. Right? Yeah, so these are just qualifying exactly, like they're qualifying to what degree you're sure that something is happening. Or they can also be used to sort of give an opinion or talk about like the extent to which an action is done.
I think.
I'm sorry?
I think our video is freezing a little bit.
I don't know what to do about that. I'm sorry, my internet really sucks. If I freeze, just tell me and let me know where I left off. What was the last thing y'all heard?
I kind of lost. Sorry.
Okay.
You're talking about how you could use type 6 suffixes, I think.
Yeah. Just to talk about like the extent to which something is done as well. And the reason I bring that up is chu. So when I talk about being fluent in a language, for example, I tend to use the word chu, speak perfectly, which is not exactly accurate when you're talking about fluency, right? Fluency is just the ability to speak without thinking all that much about words or grammar, right? And speaking, overall pretty well with few errors, but still chu sort of gives the idea of speaking fluently because you're speaking perfectly, you're speaking great. Because this can also sort of talk to the extent to which you have done a task, right? Shoot, I went perfectly. I did the thing to the fullest extent, right? So I did something perfectly. I could say, oh, shoot, kill perfectly, right? Which could be a synonym for bak, which means to terminate, and you can terminate somebody, right? Bedge is a pretty useful one. Jeshov bedge is a great word to know, or a great phrase to put into your, normal vocabulary, because to shov bedge is to know for sure, right? So you could ask somebody, or somebody could tell you, New York, Jupwe. Techa. Jeshov bedge, right? Why do I have a question mark here? So my friend, Jupwe, Jachpu, went to, let's take the pu off for the moment. Jach, New York, Jach, Jupwe. My friend went to New York. Person responds, Techa, is it true? Is that right? They, Cheja, yes. Tech, it's true. Jeshov bedge, I know for sure. It's a sure thing, right? Nurosh bedge, buj. A ship definitely is approaching us, right? Nurosh. And then you could go a step further and you could say, Nurosh bedge, buj na. A definite ship is definitely approaching us, right? So when you use the bedge and the na, which are cousins, they're brothers, right? Together, that sort of adds an extra layer of sureness that something is happening. Laut, it's that equivalent of che, right? Che is that noun suffix, right, which means apparent or seeming, right? So laut, nurosh, laut buj. A ship is seeming to approach us. You can even say buj che, nurosh laut buj che, right? A seeming and apparent ship is seemingly coming towards us, right? So it's like you're saying it, but you're not exactly 100% sure that that's what you're saying is correct. But you're going to go ahead and say it anyway, because if you don't say it, then maybe it'll cause trouble. You don't know. This is something that is obvious. Everybody should know it. And if you don't know it, koch shoch, you are a fool, right? Nurosh batduj. An obvious ship is approaching us. What is obviously a ship is approaching us, right? And there's no noun suffix equivalent for this. It's just.
I have a question. It's an obvious ship is approaching us, or that the ship is obviously approaching us?
They're not really different, right? A ship is obviously approaching us, or obviously a ship is approaching us. It would be the same, right?
Okay.
Just
you did say an obvious ship.
Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to say that. And there's no separate word in Klingon for to be obvious. However, does anybody know what the word ba, not a prefix, or sorry, not a suffix, but just the word ba means?
Sit.
Right.
Yeah, it means to sit. Yeah. And there's this phrase in Klingon, pushtak ba. And you can add, a prefix onto this to make it whatever. And literally what you're saying when you say pushtak biba, right? So if I say pushtak biba, what am I actually saying?
You sit in a chair?
Yeah, you're sitting on a chair. But because ba, the word for to sit, is a homonym with this suffix, which means obviously, to say pushtak biba, you're sitting on a chair, means something like what you just said is completely obvious, right? Pushtak biba. Thanks, Captain Obvious, basically. But you're literally saying you sit on a chair. So there are workarounds. And then if you want to say something's obvious, use the verb, use some verb, and then put ba onto it. Or you can even say, if you want to say that's obvious, you could probably just say natural ba. It is obviously known, right? Cool. Anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay. I'm going to start wrapping it up because I can see the Europeans are tired. Tiago, can you tell me the numbers 1 through 10?
Wa, cha, wedge, lush, var, chav, shuch, chur, goed.
Maj.
Wat mag.
Maj. Cheb-o, yeruch.
The same one?
Yep.
What? No, wait. What? Chat, wedge, losh, vav, jav, shot, chorg, goed, wat mag.
Maj. Right lit.
Pach, wat, cha, losh, wedge, losh, vach, vach, jav, shot, chorg, goed, mach.
What mach?
Wat mach.
Mach, yeah. Because mach by itself actually does not mean 10. It's a suffix that gets used, but you wouldn't be able to say just that. You could say conceivably. Recently, we were told that to say hundreds and thousands in Klingon, say thousands. So the word for 1,000 in Klingon is shad. Shad. So to say thousands, you would say shad laut. So many thousands. Similarly, can't speak. There are instances where vat gets separated out as its own word, such as in the word for century. The word for century in Klingon is kind of like it's a noun phrase. So it's vat dish hoch. So vat means 100, or it's the suffix which means 100, right? The number forming word. Dish, which means year, and poch, which means time. So vat dish poch is 100-year time. So from that, we can extrapolate that to say decade would be mach dish poch, right? Which would be an example where mach can act as in its own right as a or to say tens of something might be machlaut, right? But these are extrapolations rather than canon per se. Cheb-o, did you already say the numbers? Yes, you did. Yotar b'shach. Go back. Okay. Right lit. Can you say 2 + 3 = 5 in Klingon for me?
Wedge, bok, cha.
Mhm.
Chen, vach, vach.
Mach. Poop. Mach kha. Tiago, can you say 7 + 4 = 11?
Shuch, bok, lush, cheng, wat mach. No, wat mach, wat.
So at the beginning, I heard shuch rather than shoch, right? So shuch means visit, and shoch means 7. So you need ka. Try again. You need ka.
Shuch, bok, lush, cheng, wat mach, wat.
Mach. Cheb-o, how would you say 1 plus 0 equals 1.
What book par can what?
Bad. Matkha. Let's practice a little bit with vach. So as I just said, vach. So we can already count up from 1 to 99, right? Because we can say wat, chat, wedge, losh, wach, jav, shoch, chor, chut, watmach, and then after that it's watmach, watmach, chat, watmach, wedge, and so on. And then you get to chatmach, wedgemach, loshmach, vachmach, javmach, shochmach, chorchmach, chutmach, and then chutmach, wat, chat, wedge, so on. It's the same thing when you get to vach. So by learning vach, you can already count all the way up to 999. And then y'all know the word for shad, for 1,000, shad. But so let's practice with vach a little bit, because next time we meet, I want us to talk a little bit about more time expressions, and included in that is telling the time, which was going to require knowledge of vach. So vach, just like mach, you add it on to whatever the number is. And it's that simple. So wat vach is 100, right? Chat vach, 200, wedge vach, 300, losh vach, 400, vach vach, 500, jav vach, shoch vach, chor vach, chut vach, and then wat shad, 1,000. Tiago, can you say 100 to 900 for me, please?
100 to
To 900.
900.
Yeah.
Okay. Wat vak cha. Goed vak.
Oh, no, say 100 through to 900. So wat vak, chat vak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every 100. You don't do it every number.
Right, every 100.
Yeah. Wat vak,
You will never
chat vak. Yeah. Wat vak, chat vak, wedge vak, losh vak, vach vak, jav vak, shoch vak, chor vak, goed vak.
Maatja, geb o, Jeroen.
What was chat wat wedge was los vak var vak ja vak shot vak chor vak goed vak.
Maatja, right leg.
Wat vak, chat vak, wedge vak, losh vak, vach vak, jav vak, short vak, torch vak, goed vak.
Maatja. Cool. And then the way that you do that, and then the way that you add numbers together, it's the same exact thing. You just say biggest number to smallest number. So wedge vak, wedge mach, wedge is 333. Vach vak, shoch mach, losh is 574. Right? Cool. Let's call it a day. Pick. I will send out the worksheet very soon. And then I'll also make this recording available very soon and send out an email to
Can I
everybody.
have 2 more questions?
Yes! Go ahead. Ask me the questions.
Okay, one is related to what we have just talked about, and it's from the last lesson.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, because I'm not sure if I get it right.
Okay.
If you say 5 plus 2, you can just translate it within the same corresponding word order as in English, right? You can say 5 plus 2 and start with translating the 5. So
Right, yeah.
var, bok, Charles, and the same is with minus. So you translate it accordingly, not the other way around.
Right, except for right, and for so addition, it doesn't make a difference. However, for subtraction, it does, right? So losh bok ha wedge is 4 minus 3, right? 3 unallies itself from 4, right? If you were to say wedge bok ha losh, it would be 4 unallies itself from excuse me, what did I just say? Yeah, from 4. 4 unallies itself from 3. So the response would be a different number, right? One would be 1 and the other would be -1. Right? Does that make sense?
Exactly. So it's actually the same orders in English, although it's not, but it comes
Right.
out the same.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And the second question is also about what we were talking about the last lesson.
Yeah.
When you have the which refers, well, is a relative clause. If I wanted to say, because I was thinking about this example the other day, yesterday I dreamt that I spoke Klingon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do I also start with the wahoo? Wanted to make the wahoo be within the relative clause. So basically, I would be speaking that I was, or I am, for example, I am dreaming that yesterday I spoke Klingon.
Yeah.
How to make the difference?
Well, I think that the part of the problem with that phrase is, I'm going to bring out the whiteboard real quick. Part of the problem is Naj doesn't really take an object. So you have to reimagine the way you're going to say that. So I would say like, at Vijal. I imagined, or I saw me speaking Klingon. But the problem that you raise is one that's very important, and it also applies to adverbials, right? We talked about adverbials, and this is sort of getting into kind of advanced territory, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. But basically, what it is, adverbials and timestamps, they're coming at the beginning of a verb phrase. So trying to think of an example sentence that would help here. So let's see. At Vishov, I know that you have run, will run. Yesterday you ran. This I know. Right. When you put pipe, it's going to depend where you put pipe in here is adverbial. It's going to depend on what you're saying, right? So yesterday, pipe suddenly you started running at that that I know. I know that you suddenly started running yesterday. But if you put that pipe over here, then it becomes, you suddenly know that yesterday you started running. Does that make sense? The pipe all of a sudden is talking about this second phrase. Because remember, at is a pronoun. And so this is kind of like, over here, this is kind of like its own little thing. So you can imagine it this way. Pipe is still coming at the beginning of a verb phrase, but it's just coming at the beginning of a second verb phrase that uses the previous phrase as an object, right? And similarly, you could say, you started running yesterday. Suddenly, I knew that. I knew suddenly yesterday that you were running. So the knowing is happening in the past rather than the running, and so is the suddenly. Right? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was wondering. So that's actually it's not really the exception, but kind of like to the strict rule of thinking to putting always a timestamp in the beginning, because it is in the beginning, but it's the second clause of the first one. So.
Yeah, and don't let that be, don't let that, sometimes it's very clear, even if you're putting dachjaj at the beginning of a phrase that's followed by at. Sometimes, the speaker means that the dachjaj is the at verb, right? And sometimes it can be both, right? That it's talking about both. So just, learn to read the context. But if it is coming right before that at, then that it's specifically talking about it's specifically giving context to the et verb. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
Any other pressing questions? Waj.